morning, y'all. This is Marie from our Okie Homestead. Fixing to make some milk gravy. Husband cooked us some bacon and biscuits, and I'm gonna make us some milk gravy to go over our biscuits. So I thought, I'll just go ahead and video it. Had leftover bacon grease, so I just poured that in my skillet. Okay, there's more than one way to make gravy. This is just one of them. All right, the milk gravy. Got my flour here. Got my whisk here. And I'm not really known for measuring stuff that I make all the time. So, pardon me for not being able to tell you exact measurements. You can actually play around with this. Now, I've got my electric stove on like medium heat. It's kind of hard to get it in there to show you with the, there we go. Like medium heat. So, now, I keep this 1/3 cup measuring thing in my flour, so I'm always just using it to scoop. You could kind of go by that measurement of a 1/3 scoop. I don't know. Anyway, I'll get started making it for y'all, so y'all can see. So my grease is already hot. The skillet ought to be hot by now. I see it moving. So I just sprinkle some flour in there. You don't want this part. This is how you can do it without even measuring, honestly. You can just sprinkle the flour in there. You don't want this part to be super thick because it don't take a whole lot of flour to make gravy. Now, I do have it, with this being cast iron skillet, I kind of got it too high a heat, but I'm fixing to add my milk, so I'm not going to be super concerned about it. So that was almost 1/3 cup. I really didn't have it full. And it's probably about the same on the bacon grease. There was maybe 1/2 cup. I kind of, you know, probably between 1/3 and 1/2. But I just do it based on the thickness. And there's one thing I learned from Cajun cooking: the longer that flour cooks, the more flavor it'll have. So I always, even with milk gravy, try to let it cook for a second before I start adding some milk. And I just pour my milk in. This is like a 8 or a 10-inch skillet. I'll check here in a second to make sure. But I know from the amount of flour I put in there that I'm gonna get at least 1/2 skillet worth of gravy. And so I'll go ahead and fill my, I think this is why I use the whisk, so I don't get no clumps. But I just keep whisking it around. This is another reason why I didn't turn the heat down, because that cold milk I knew was gonna take it a minute to really heat up. I'm trying to speed up the process a little bit for y'all, because this is gonna be the longest part, honestly, waiting for it to thicken up. Because I don't want to turn my heat up at this point. It's already hot. I see it steaming. And if I turned my heat up and I got distracted for a minute and not stirring my whisk, I could end up burning it. So I don't want to rush it by doing that. I love biscuits and gravy. Biscuit and gravy. So that's why I was like, you know, the first time or two that I made gravy, any kind of gravy, honestly, I really messed it up. I put way too much flour. That was like back when I was early 20s. And I had never really, I had kind of watched my mother make gravy, but I didn't really pay attention good enough growing up, of course. So, and my mother was always one of those, you know, small kitchen, 4 or 5 kids. It's like, get out of the kitchen. So I kind of did the same thing with my kids, kind of a little bit. I kind of think, looking back, that if you chase your kids out of the kitchen in order to speed things up, it's kind of a mistake. I kind of think that's a mistake with any job that you do. Trying to do things so your kids don't have to is a mistake, I think. Just keep stirring, stirring, stirring. I don't want any flour to end up settling against the pan and getting a chance to burn. So that's my biggest reason for not upping my heat. You can see the steam now. I can spot it on the camera now. So I just keep stirring it around. But yeah, this way you get no lumps. Now sometimes I'll misjudge exactly how much milk I need to put in, and if it's a little bit thinner than I like, then I will cook it longer in order to evaporate off some of the extra water. You can also, at this point, cautiously, like maybe with a sifter, add a little bit more flour if it's too thin for you. But you're asking for lumps doing it that way too. I never really had a whole lot of luck doing it like that. I was better off letting it cook to thicken up. I can see it thickening up now. You can probably see the difference on the camera too. But, oh yeah, there we go. Once it starts thickening up, now I'm sitting here and I'm judging this gravy because it's thickening up and I'm not seeing, even with all my stirring, okay, there goes my bubbling. Even with the stirring, constant stirring, once it starts doing the bubbling, you just start seeing it on the camera now. See? Then I know pretty much at that point when the bubbling starts, it's like, okay, I'm done. And it looks like the thickness of it is about exactly how I like. Not super thick, not super thin. Now, I told you the fix for if it's super thin is just cook it down some more. Okay? Now, if I had misjudged and it was thicker than I wanted, then at this stage is when I would go ahead and add a little bit more milk. I'm gonna go ahead, because you gotta remember too, gravy thickens as it cools down. And I don't really like super thick gravy. So this is the stage where if you see it's thickening up like this and you're afraid it's gonna be a little bit too thick, you can go ahead and add a little bit more milk to thin it down. And I go ahead and turn the heat off once it starts bubbling too. Unless, you know, I'm waiting on other stuff to finish cooking. But, you know, husband done cooked our bacon, he done cooked our biscuits, so this was all we were waiting on. He has high blood pressure, so I typically will not add salt to a lot of food because of that. But you can add pepper. And I just add salt to mine. I probably could have added the pepper sooner, but there we go. Word of advice, always rinse your whisk when you get done because it makes it easier to clean it. Where's the biscuits? It's done. Alrighty, time for breakfast. Okay. Gotta watch these electric stoves, especially with the cast iron skillet, because you see what it's trying to do down there. It's trying to burn. I've already got my burner off, but it's still hot.
Yeah, because of hangover heat.
Yep. Those electric stoves are not an automatic cool down like you would get with a gas stove, of course. So, y'all have a good one.